So in this video, I'm going to go over how to overcome circumstances with real thinking. Okay, there's a difference between real thinking and default thinking. You can even swipe out real thinking as responsive thinking versus default reactive thinking. And why is this really, really important? Because when we look at the path to success, we're looking at different levels of intelligence. We're talking about IQ. As we know, IQ is very much highly regarded in the world today. But we're also looking at EQ. Please look at my video on emotional intelligence. And we're also looking at AQ. And that means how well do we deal with adversity, right? So let's get right into it. How do we overcome circumstances with real thinking? I had a session with a client the other day, and the topic was on KPIs, or key performance indicators, for her real estate business. Aside from working with someone like me who is more of the mindset, energetics, and manifestation aspect, right, of life and business, she also hired a real estate business development coach who was more, let's say, left brain or logical in her approach to business building. And that is very important. I mean, looking at numbers and logic is very important. I always encourage my clients to identify specific targets they want to manifest, especially when it comes to money and business building. For example, you want to know your numbers when it comes to sales. Like, how many outreaches does it take to land appointments? And out of the appointments, how many sales conversations convert into paying clients and customers? Because once you know those numbers, you can always improve, number one, especially with energetics and manifestation practices. And your income, especially when transferring from the employee world into entrepreneurship, you start knowing you create your own paycheck, so to speak, okay? So it's very important to know these things. So from these initial numbers, you can build upon them, begin to manifest better numbers. And the key point here is to manifest better. What I mean by that is, when it comes to numbers, they should not control how you think. That is my caveat. It's just data, right? But they don't control your thoughts and your feelings, and therefore how you act. So let me give you an example here, okay? Let's say there's a student, and that student on that day takes a test, and they just happen to score low on that test. Now, because in our culture, in our current belief system, test scores measure intelligence in very traditional schooling systems. And a low test score could naturally lead to, reflecting that the student is not smart in that particular subject, okay? Now, let's just say the student that they observe this, and let's say the teacher automatically has this perception of the student. And so because of the teacher thinking, well, the student isn't very smart, at least in this subject matter, the student decides that they are not, in fact, smart. And based on that thought, the student can start feeling inferior or stupid or not confident, etc. And the student will act accordingly based on that perception, based on that unconscious decision that they made about themselves. And it's because of also the input, right, that student is also receiving from the teacher, from maybe other classmates, and definitely on this test score itself. So the student takes on the attitude, well, if I'm not smart anyway, why should I study and and even bother, right? So that student with that attitude decides not to study, and then goes on and takes another test, doesn't get the high scores, and creates a result essentially to justify the existing belief, okay? So that you see this cycle going on. So this is a perfect example of how a negative circumstance or a negative result, like numbers you don't want to see on a sheet of paper, like a test result, how that can take control of someone's thinking. Okay, so this is not real thinking. So in this instance, it creates a cycle of thought, feeling, and action that will perpetuate the unwanted result. And not many people are very aware of this cycle. A lot of people, majority of people, actually get caught up in this cycle. And it can sound like this. And see if you can relate to this, right? Well, such and such a situation or person, you just fill in the blank, made me feel this way. Or I thought negative and felt negative because this happened. A person who reacts, right, in this way has not cultivated yet their level of awareness that is really needed to truly succeed and manifest effectively. Because when you want to live a life of design and default, when you want to break the chains of generational curses, when you're on a path of transformation, any excuse that something outside of you made you, and I put this in quotes, made you think and feel a certain way, it will not fly. It will not fly. This is more of a victim type mindset, but to really manifest really effectively means you have to take on more of a master type mindset. You have to learn how to really, really think. Let's look at real thinking. Let's say that there's news that the economy is doing horribly, okay? A person who's really thinking will immediately make a decision, because they have the level of awareness to do this, that, well, my economy is actually prosperous. Let's say there's a person, let's do another example of real thinking. Let's say there's a person in the hospital and they get a lab result that indicates a disease process in the physical body. So the lab's a little bit off, right? A person who's truly thinking will immediately decide, because they know that they have the power to do this, they will immediately decide, despite the lab result, that's a negative result, they will decide, I am healthy. And they may even start envisioning that lab result as being normal. So what is real thinking? Real thinking is when you consciously decide on the reality you want on a conscious level, and you only entertain that idea, impressing that idea onto your subconscious mind. Now, what will happen? By law, consequently, the body must follow. And that person's energy can only attract the things, the circumstances, the people, etc., into their life in order to make that manifestation, that idea, physical. Now, Wallace D. Wattles, he is the author of The Science of Getting Rich. And I remember how he had said that real thinking, he had described real thinking as thinking other than the physical manifestation that is before you. Okay, so real thinking is thinking other than, let's say, a physical manifestation that's unwanted that is before you. Because if it's something that you want, it's a physical manifestation, continue to think that way. Hey, right? He also said that this is one of the most difficult things to ever do. Like, let's just say there's a disharmonious interaction between two people, right? If one or both of the people continue with that train of thought, they continue with affirming the belief that they'll be disharmonious, it's going to continue. In the midst of the disharmony, the real thinking would be, this relationship is healed, for example. That's real thinking. Again, it is simple, and yet it is not easy to do. So we have to realize that all results don't just happen. Every manifestation we see in every facet and avenue in life is a result of a belief that has been acted upon and has been attracted into life, and is mere reflecting a belief that is in the unconscious or subconscious mind. Otherwise, the manifestation would not be there, okay? So real thinking requires emotional neutrality as well. So I want you to really think about this. Takes mindfulness. So let's slow down a little bit and let's take a deeper look. In order to observe a situation, a result that is not to your liking, Notice how I said observe. There's kind of like an objectivity to it. It means you have created space between you and that manifestation, right? So you're not judging, you're just merely observing. You're not judging, you're not feeling negative about it. You're simply observing it, so you're neutral. In that moment of emotional neutrality, in that moment of mindfulness, you have the choice as to what to actually think about the matter. You either go along with what you see and recreate it, or you can think a thought of what you want to experience despite what your five senses are telling you. So this is real thinking. But first, you must be aware. In the awareness, you get to truly choose your thoughts and feelings that create the physical experience that you want. I hope you found this helpful. I'm signing off for this video. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.